Today I will help a young lady probably start doing sheetrock.
Good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. This is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. And our promise here is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on this traditional and unceded land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar way, we acknowledge how much of what we know in this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labors and sacrifices, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris.
Good morning. And this is a time of the morning that we spend on Sunday. Hopefully you spend it during the week, centering ourselves, allowing ourselves to become still, calm, and peaceful, releasing everything that has come before us this day. Any worries, woes, frustrations, any challenges, because you can pick them up later if you choose, because you are a choice. And so right now I invite us to get as comfortable as possible, and if you're sitting, lying, however you are positioned, and just find that sweet spot. There's a spot where it just feels just so good, like Goldilocks, just right. And when you find that spot, I invite us to do some breathing. We'll take a few nice, deep breaths in, allowing our diaphragms to expand And then when we release all that we don't need within us. We release the carbon dioxide to the plants and the trees. And we breathe in the oxygen that they make for us. And this is a reciprocal universe in so many aspects. And so now let's take a nice deep breath in and hold it. Hold it. Hold it. And release. One more deep breath in. And hold it. And release. One more nice deep breath in. And release. So during this time of meditation, I'm going to invite us to think of some of the challenges that we've had in our life. Not a lot of them, maybe one or two. And don't get caught up in them, just recall them. And then recall how it felt once you overcame that challenge. Once you conquered that challenge, how did that make you feel? And so just recall those challenges, and then how they made you feel when they were overcome. Easily climb this mountain. And overcome this challenge. And always remember to breathe. Breathe in nice and deep. Climb this mountain and conquer this challenge. And I invite you during this day, during the week, during the month, when a challenge comes up, just kind of stop, center yourself with a nice deep breath or two, and just say, I have climbed this mountain. I have conquered this challenge. Each challenge can be conquered. So with that, I just invite each of us to, with our toes, our fingers, keep on breathing. And when you're ready, open your eyes and return to the room. So it is. Okay, now the reading from today comes from the internet. Woohoo! Thank goodness for the internet. First of all, I wanted to, before I read, I wanted to welcome you to the Year of the Dragon. And I brought my dragon in that I got from a youth in a coming of age program many years ago. And I thought, I'm going to bring you in celebration of the Year of the Dragon. Woohoo! There. So the reading for today is by Bruce Wilson, PhD. It's called Discomfort, a Pathway to Growth. In personal growth, discomfort can be seen as a positive experience. Growth is the only evidence of life. And that's a quote by John Henry Newman. Personal growth depends on effort and struggle, perhaps some pain, at times risking one's security, investing our ingenuity and creativity, moving to higher levels of consciousness, giving up familiar patterns of safety and obsolete values, and trading in one's comfort zones for discomfort. Little wonder so many individuals choose not to engage in their own personal growth. Growth is not easy. Like-minded relationships. One way we avoid growth while reinforcing our comfort zone is to only associate with like-minded people. Social media has enhanced our ability to shield ourselves from a diversity of views by providing platforms that are tailor-made to like-mindedness. Our likes are the same, and so are our dislikes. How will social media affect our growth long-term? Novel and foreign ideas and concepts only become possible when like-minded friends and associates agree to disagree. Growth is necessarily limited due to the need to fit in with others. A partner with a different view may offer the gift of growth. That difference of opinion opens up new neural pathways of discovery. My black and white thinking has the opportunity to turn to gray and be resolved through healthy debate and new observations about myself and my partner. The struggle provides the benefit of growth as a person and as a couple. In so many things, growth comes from adversary. That's a quote from Michael Huffington. Discomfort and growth. The weightlifter must lift enough weight in order to cause muscle tissue to become damaged so that it may heal and become stronger. The runner piles on miles, enduring soreness the next day or two are the same. For the same reasons. Stress and discomfort enable gains in speed, strength, and endurance. Mental and emotional gains are similar to terms of discomfort promoting growth. Mental and emotional challenges stretch one's potential to overcome the obstacles of life. Although difficult, our achievements from our struggles will build self-confidence and self-efficiency. Anxiety has been called the beginning of growth. Discomfort has a way of moving people, even when they are not motivated. Frustration, cessation, and contingency are known to be powerful behavioral change agents. Even post-traumatic stress has the potential to inspire some post-traumatic growth. Many people with substance use disorder elevate their lives through growth and serve as alcohol and other drug counselors, to those still in the grips of their addiction. That was a challenge. We know that complacency and comfort can be debilitating. With a comfort zone in place, why move? The answer is simple. Without movement, there is no growth. Responsible growth. What would responsible growth look like? Change and growth takes place when a person has risked themselves and dares to become involved with experimenting with their own life. Ordinary men and women expand their world by diving into the unknown. The unknown will not help us grow. The known will not help us grow. Only the unknown has that possibility to seek. The unknown will take courage, effort, maybe some pain and fortitude. But what is to be granted? But what is to be gained in the status quo of our experience? The responsible growth individual knows the risk and the uncertainty of growth and pursues their involvement with higher energy. A challenge response personality and a resilience. Their only fear is to be stuck in their own complacency. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That was a quote by Viktor Frankl. Growth and freedom. Growth which takes us from the negatives of our life and toward the positives of our life is all about elevating one's freedom to move from our anger, worry, depression, anxiety, and all the weighty aspects of our life is to free ourselves and grow. To move toward compassion, love, understanding, and hope is also all about freedom and growth. The movement toward freedom is our growth. Just as economic freedom leads to economic growth, personal freedom leads to personal growth. This movement only occurs through our desire to change and to risk the unknown. A higher level of consciousness. To reach responsible growth, our level of consciousness will also need to grow. What does this look like? Our awareness and our perception will need to become more finely tuned, like a fine instrument. Then, due to our personal growth, we can make our life a more beautiful composition. And so it is.
You changed it. Pardon? I just put it on spotlight, so it's on. Yes. So we have our declaration, which in a moment you will see. See everything.
I think it's right there.
Okay. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And finally, we are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is.
So it is.
So I'll go through the words for this month's chant again. My heartbreak makes me bigger. My heartache makes me strong. My heartbreak makes me figure all the places I belong. Sometimes I feel hungry, sometimes I feel full, sometimes sad or elated. So I always feel the pull of wholeness, all that is, all I am. My heartbreak makes me bigger. My heartache makes me strong. My heartbreak makes me figure all the places I belong. Sometimes I feel hungry. Sometimes I feel full. Sometimes sad or elated. So I always feel the pull of wholeness, all that is, all I am. Now your heartbreak makes you bigger, your heartache makes you strong, your heartbreak makes you figure all the places you belong. Sometimes you feel hungry, sometimes you feel full, sometimes sad or elated, so you always feel the pull of wholeness, all that is, all you are. Our heartbreak makes us bigger, our heartache makes us strong, our heartbreak makes us figure all the places we belong. Sometimes we feel hungry, sometimes we feel full, sometimes sad or elated, so we always feel the pull of wholeness, all that is, all we are. My heartbreak makes me bigger, my heartache makes me strong, my heartbreak makes me figure all the places I belong. Sometimes I feel hungry, sometimes I feel full, sometimes sad or elated, so I always feel the pull of wholeness, all that is, all I am, all that is, all I am. So since we're starting a new year in the Chinese calendar, a new year in the Asian calendar, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that will kind of set the tone for today's talk and for some ideas about how to embrace the challenges that come to us. So once upon a time, in the small town of Natbush, Tennessee, Zelma Priscilla Curry and Floyd Richard Bullock welcomed the third daughter to their family, Anna Mae Bullock. Now, little Anna Mae discovered her passion for music, and she poured her heart and her soul into every note that she sang. She was determined to chase her dreams, so she joined the local church choir, and as her skills became more developed, she then started singing in local nightclubs in St. Louis. Getting the microphone from the band's drummer during intermission, her singing caught the attention of the band's leader, Ike Turner. And impressed by the raw talent and the charismatic presence that Anna Mae showed, Ike offered her a place in the band. Now, Ike branded her as Tina, Where did Tina come from? It rhymed with Sheena of the Jungle. Because Ike figured, like all of the other people who had been in his band, that Tina would take a hike. She was not going to last. But as it turned out, they formed a partnership that lasted for many years. However, what I didn't tell you in the story at the beginning was that Amaré, Tina's mother and father, her father was very abusive towards her mother. And her mother disappeared from Tina's life. So Tina was raised by her father's parents, Tina was raised by her mother's mother, and then Tina came back to her mother. Tina never felt particularly loved out of that family context, out of that family experience. So when Ike started mistreating her, it was kind of the norm. It was what she expected. It's what she saw, and it's what she believed she deserved. However, by 1976, she was done. So she found the courage to escape from the relationship. And in escaping from the relationship, it wasn't like an estate that was split in half. All she left with was her name, Tina Turner. She wasn't entitled to anything that had happened prior to the time that she left him. So she faced numerous obstacles, setbacks. She was rejected, she had financial struggles, she had personal battles, yet she never let herself become defined by those challenges. Instead, she poured all of the pain, all of the challenges into her music, pouring her heart and soul into every performance. So in the early 80s, Tina's career began to soar to unprecedented heights. It was an example that had not been seen in the world. Typically, if you were a performer and you kind of fell off of the big times, you stayed off the big times. But Tina captivated a worldwide audience. In fact, as I was sharing with Michael, she was much more known throughout Europe than she was in the United States. People knew her for What's Love Got to Do with It, Private Dancer, Simply the Best. They dominated the charts and solidifying her as a music icon. Now, her story conveys so much more than overcoming hardship. It expresses resilience, triumph, and empowerment. By fearlessly sharing her own experiences, standing tall in the face of diversity, she became an inspiration to countless individuals who found strength in her journey. Beyond the musical achievements that she defined and she created, her legacy, she stood up as an unwavering advocate against domestic violence. And she used her platform and her own experience to raise awareness and support for people who had undergone similar abuse. She became a beacon of hope for those trapped in similar situations. Tina's incredible journey from a small town third daughter to an international superstar stands as a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Her determination, resilience, and unwavering courage allowed her to rise above the violence that once consumed her life, and she has emerged as an enduring symbol, an icon of strength and triumph. Katie.
I'm trusting And I'll try to make heaven my home.
So I wanted to give you the context for that song. And then I want to lean into how that song informs us. Who has not felt tossed or driven? Who has not felt like their life was going in a certain way and then it exploded? That the expectations that were not happening. So in today's talk, I'm going to talk about the power to transform our lives by being willing to step outside of our comfort zones. I'm going to talk about embracing the unknown and discovering the growth and fulfillment that's awaiting us. And I'm going to talk about taking action today. Specific things that we can do today. Not just theoretically, but practically. So we all know that our comfort zones let us feel safe, right? The thing about our comfort zones is that they also can lead us to become stagnant. They can also lead us to just simply stop. Now, in order to break out of our comfort zones and break out of stagnation, we have to confront fear and we have to confront resistance. Now, sometimes when we're in the midst of it, it's impossible to see it. For years, people doubted that we live in a world filled with oxygen because we can't see it. Now, if you go to some countries nowadays, you do see that the air is thick and that, in fact, that you are breathing in stuff. LA, lots of places in China. Cairo. So there are places where we can see it, but we get so used to it. We've heard the expression, a fish swimming in the water doesn't recognize the water. When we're in the midst of our fear and when we're in the midst of our resistance, we are just blind to it. In the story of Tina Turner getting together with Ike, he hit her. He hit her in the head very early in their relationship. But she didn't think anything of it because that's what she saw. She didn't think of herself as particularly worthy because her parents got called away to work during the Second World War, and she got dumped in her grandparents' home, and her grandparents weren't all that receptive. They weren't like, "Ooh, this is so delightful, we get to take care of our grandchildren." They weren't like that. And then her parents came back, and her mom was like, "I am done with this." Her mom was really never interested. Tina described how her mom said, her mom could have had the life that she wanted. It wasn't having 3 daughters. That was not her dream. And so when she wasn't the Hallmark movie mother who's just like and thriving on every word of her children's coming from her children's mouth or just delighting in her children's presence, Tina learned to think about herself in a certain way. How many of us learned to think about ourselves in a certain way? We just get inured to it. We just get immune to it. We just get sucked into it. We believe that that's all there is. So how do we face it? How do we confront it? the easiest thing is to look for these three features. Are we in fight? Are we in flight? Or are we frozen? So to just start the day, where am I in fight? Where am I in flight? Where am I frozen? Because all of those reactions are the way the human animal has been designed, has evolved to deal with fear. With fight, with flight, with freezing. Now, freezing is a fairly recent recognition. We all know it. We've all known it. That getting stopped, that you just can't move. That frozen quality. Fight and flight, that's what we're taught first. Partly because it rhymes. Fight or flight. Freeze is not a rhyming word with fight or flight.
Dear.
The first step is to recognize it, to see that it's present. We can become aware of our fear when we're present to how we are responding to it. And when we see that happening, we can choose how to be with it. So there's that first piece in terms of how to cope with fear, facing the fear. It's recognizing it. The second thing is to understand that if we are fearful because of failure, that's great. What baby ever stood up and started walking and cruising and went from walking to doing marathons? There are no babies that are recorded in history as going from standing up and running a marathon. We don't expect that. That's not the developmental course. We don't look at a baby falling down and think, you're a little failure. We don't listen to the babbling sounds of a baby and say, boy, you're terrible at language. You're really just the worst talker in the universe. We don't look at little ones' explorations, and we don't judge it as failure. That comes later. But we don't have to keep revisiting that claiming, that naming, that defaming. We all know that Thomas Edison tried a whole bunch of different ways to make light bulbs. We know that, and we don't put a big failure under his picture because of all of those failed efforts. What we look at is we're excited that here was somebody who was just going to continue trying. How much grace do we give ourselves in our continuing efforts? I know I've definitely been critical of myself for saying, I'm trying too much. If I don't have it by now, am I ever going to get it? Making progress is the ability to keep working to make something happen. Now I want to share something from Ernest Holmes. This was in his Science of Mind textbook. So if you all want to open your pages to page 404, paragraph 2, you could do that. But if you don't have your book and you're not able to do that, I'll read it to you. Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake, blocking the more complete givingness of the Spirit to its highest form of manifestation on the planet. God is more completely expressed through the person who lives largely than through the person who lives meagerly. Fear is a belief in limitation, a denial that the divine is the center and source of all good. We must do all in our good to overcome it.
Come on in.
So I'm going to move to the second point, that we have an opportunity to overcome limiting beliefs and self-imposed boundaries.
Hi. Good morning. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just wondering how can I access Unit A? I'm supposed to drop a package and
Oh, it's up the stairs.
is it stairs?
Yeah, it's upstairs.
Where?
And the stairs are in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go around back
I'll
of the
take it
stairs.
over there.
Okay,
That's
thank
on
you
the
so
top of
much.
the beauty shop.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so how do we overcome limiting beliefs and self-imposed boundaries? Like I described, one of the first things is to just start recognizing it. We can't overcome any limitation, we can't overcome any boundary if we haven't seen that it's there to overcome. In his Edinburgh lectures, Thomas Troward, you all know Thomas Troward,
Oh, yes.
Thomas wrote very long sentences, so this is actually one of his shorter ones. You'll be excited to know that. Belief in limitation is the one and only thing that causes limitation, because we thus impress limitation upon the creative principle. And in proportion as we lay that belief aside, our boundaries will expand, and increasing life and more abundant blessing will be ours. I'll say that again, because I think it's important. Belief in limitation is the one and only thing that causes limitation, because we thus impress limitation upon the creative principle. And in proportion as we lay that belief aside, our boundaries will expand, and increasing life and more abundant blessing will be ours. So what are ways to cultivate this extension beyond our limiting beliefs and those boundaries that we have set for ourselves? Well, you've all heard of practices like meditation. Michael had us do that this morning. Meditation doesn't have to be something that is guided, but we can just go on the internet and find a meditation like that. We can go and just slow down and pay attention to our breath. We can go for a walk. We can set ourselves in front of something that we see as beautiful. If you enjoy Tina Turner, you can turn Tina Turner's album on and you can meditate on what Tina has to sing about. We can use affirmations. We can say out loud to defeat, to counteract all of the quiet things that we often think to ourselves. In a drone, in a repetitive drone. So if we catch ourselves, I'm not good enough, I failed again, then there's the oh, to cancel it out. Oh, look at that belief. I am going to affirm that I am enough. I am going to affirm that I am more than enough. What does it feel like to just pause for a moment and say, I am enough. I am more than enough. An affirmation doesn't have to be something difficult. It may be difficult to believe it, but just like the baby learned to walk and learned to talk, repeating it makes it more practiced. even when we have talents, by practicing those talents, they become easier and take less and less effort. You might incorporate journaling. Michael loves to talk and encourage people to journal. And once again, the journaling doesn't have to be, we don't have to be thinking of it like we're going to be turning this in, that this is an assignment that someone is going to be grading. We can just write. Sometimes the process of just putting the pen to paper or taking the time, giving ourselves the space, we can seek guidance from a mentor. One of the things that we're doing today is we're having a prayer exchange. So we can be praying the prayer that we receive in the prayer exchange. Another way to overcome belief and limitation is to embrace discomfort. Brene Brown said, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. Years ago when Michael and I took the Landmark Forum course, heard the idea that you can love or you can be right. That it's really hard to be right and to be love. We tend to think that if I'm right, that my rightness is the love that I'm going to be giving the world. But the world doesn't necessarily receive that. And Annette White told us, each time you try something for the first time, you will grow. A little piece of the fear of the unknown is removed and replaced by a sense of empowerment. So then the third thing, so if the first is confronting our fears and confronting our resistance, and the second thing is overcoming our limiting beliefs and those boundaries that we have accepted and that we have incorporated, and we said they must be right. The third thing is to deliberately expand our boundaries and to embrace new experiences. So what comfort zones have we held ourselves to? Where might we stretch? Where might we break down the familiarity? In the story of Tina Turner, Tina adopted a new name. Is there a new name that you want for yourself? Instead of calling yourself a person who's maybe fearful, will you call yourself a person that is encountering fearsome situations? A big shift, at least in my mind, historically, is the understanding of what calling people slaves versus calling people enslaved. When people were called slaves, they became the property. When they were enslaved, they were no longer belittled and turned into property. We look at the action of the injustice against people. When they're slaves, we aren't thinking a whole lot about injustice. When you hear enslavement, it turns it around. So our capacity to expand boundaries can happen very much with our language, with our choices. I want to identify two other people whose names changed as a process in transformation. People are pretty familiar with the person Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his father, Martin Luther King, changed their names when Martin Luther King went to Germany on a spiritual adventure. His church sent him there to learn things. And he was so impressed with Martin Luther that he took his own name, Michael King, and he changed it to Martin Luther King. And he changed his son's name as well, Martin Luther King Jr. What names do we want to take on? How many people have heard Malcolm X? But the Malcolm X came because Malcolm chose X because he wanted to discard the name of enslavement from his white enslavers. The family name was Malcolm Little. How would you like to go through the world as a little? That couldn't contain Malcolm. In researching the talk, Malcolm Little's family his father and his mother were people who were standing up for civil rights. A whole generation before he was doing it. And there's good belief, based on evidence, that his father was probably killed. And even though his father had 2 insurance policies, only one of them paid his mother. And it left the family in a state of destitution. The other policy said, oh, we're not going to pay you because we suspect that his running into a streetcar and dying from that was him trying to kill himself. It's like George Floyd trying to kill himself. Malcolm X was carrying on a larger and longer heritage. Martin Luther King Jr. was also carrying on a longer heritage. And both men, they're actually the subject of a National Geographic production around genius. And what the production is showing is that so often we, from a patriarchal white perspective, like to think of big heroic people. But the fact is that Martin Luther King Jr. was married to Coretta Scott King, who was a powerhouse in her own right. And Malcolm X's wife was a powerhouse in her own right. To expand boundaries, sometimes we need to look beyond our own personal stories and see how we are connected to so many other stories. That our story is not a single solitary story, but is one that is woven together with others. We're taught to see our story, but by expanding boundaries, we see ourselves interconnected with other stories. So find where we are stuck in our comfort zones. Play with the idea. What are some examples of time that you have stepped out of your comfort zone? What are those steps that you have taken? And with those steps, celebrate those victories. Celebrate every step, no matter how small, no matter how much you may have diminished it yourself. Oh, it's no big deal. When you say that, I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of that. Catch that. Pay attention to it. And set it aside. As you set it aside, you are expanding that boundary. You are letting yourself be bigger than you've allowed yourself before. Be willing to take inspired actions. So I am going to conclude us with an affirmation, and then we're going to have another song. And Michael's going to share the affirmation, so you're actually going to get to see it. So you don't have to remember it. Easier for the brain. Changes may challenge me. Changes may challenge me. And life fills me with all I need to meet my challenges. Changes may challenge me. And life fills me with all I need to meet my challenges. And one more time, and really feel it. Changes may challenge me. And life fills me with all I need to meet my challenges. And so it is. And our concluding song is going to bring us back to Tina Turner. Tina Turner, Anna Mae Bullock, in a context of a chant with adorable children.